The morning after their wedding, Deep woke to a silence so gentle it felt as if the world itself had paused, breathing softly alongside the two of them. Sunlight slid through the thin cream-colored curtains, drawing soft streaks of gold across the room where she and James had finally, officially, begun their life as husband and wife. For the first time in years, perhaps in her entire adult life, Deep felt safe. Truly safe. As though every storm she had survived, every heartbreak, every betrayal, every sleepless night, had quietly led her to this exact moment. James was already awake. He sat at the edge of the bed, elbows resting loosely on his knees, watching her with that familiar tenderness, the one expression guaranteed to make her chest tighten. "Good morning, Mrs. James," he whispered, gently brushing a stray strand of hair from her cheek. Deep couldn't suppress the shy, breathy laugh escaping her. "It feels strange hearing that." "It feels perfect," James replied. He leaned down and pressed a soft kiss to her forehead, a gesture so small yet so full of promise that it anchored her completely. Their first few days as a married couple were peaceful in a way neither of them had known for years. They cooked simple meals together, rice porridge on rainy mornings, fried eggs and herbs from the neighbor's garden, warm tea by the windowsill at night. They repaired small broken things around the wooden house. A squeaky hinge, a loose lantern, a wobbly shelf. They even visited their new office to prepare for the construction company's reopening. Everywhere they walked, hope seemed to follow, as if the world had briefly decided to give them a gentle beginning. But deep, she felt different. Disoriented. Her body whispered strange signals she couldn't ignore. At first, it was barely noticeable, a sudden dizziness when she bent down to pick up a dropped spoon. An odd craving for sour plums in the middle of the afternoon. Nights when her stomach fluttered as though a tiny heartbeat echoed inside her. James noticed, of course. "You've been tired a lot lately," he murmured one evening while she leaned against him on the sofa. "Are you getting sick?" She shook her head, though she wasn't sure herself. "Maybe I just need rest." But somewhere deep inside her, a quiet suspicion began to bloom, soft yet persistent, like a small light flickering behind a closed door. The next morning, while James prepared breakfast, singing off key as he chopped vegetables, Deep slipped out to the small pharmacy around the corner. Her hands trembled as she paid for a single pregnancy test, hiding it quickly in her bag. Back home, she locked the bathroom door behind her. Her heartbeat thundered in her ears. Minutes crawled by, stretching into what felt like hours. Then, there it was, 2 clear lines. Two undeniable lines. Deep pressed her trembling hand to her mouth as tears gathered and spilled. A baby. Their baby. A tiny piece of her and James, growing quietly inside her, fragile, miraculous, real. Joy burst inside her like sunlight piercing through heavy rain clouds. But at that exact moment, outside the bathroom door, James's phone rang sharply, a call from the company. A call that would soon spiral into the darkest chapter of his life. The day after the stormy confrontation at the company, Deep woke with a heaviness that felt wrong, as if the world itself had shifted beneath her feet overnight. James had already left. On the table, he'd left a note. "I'll fix this before it reaches you. Trust me." His handwriting was steady. Too steady for a man surrounded by enemies. She pressed the note to her chest. A flutter rippled through her body, fear, perhaps, or something much more delicate. When she stood up, dizziness washed over her. The room tilted. She grabbed the edge of the table, breathing slowly until the spinning eased. She should have told him, she should have said something last night, when her body whispered its secret with quiet certainty. But James already carried too much, employees turning against him, partners withdrawing investments, rumors circling like vultures. She didn't want to add another weight to his shoulders. At the small clinic near the market, the doctor examined her gently before offering a soft, knowing smile. "Congratulations," he said. "You're pregnant." The word struck her like sunlight after a storm. Pregnant. Her hands trembled as she held the ultrasound paper, a small shadow, barely formed, but undeniably alive. Tears blurred her vision, joy tangled with fear. When she stepped out into the warm air, the scent of ripe mangoes drifted from nearby stalls. She wanted to call James immediately, to share the news, to hear him laugh the way he always did when happiness caught him off guard. But then she remembered the shouting workers, her mother's trembling voice, the cold stares of the officers who visited the house. James wasn't free. James wasn't safe. And this child, this fragile, miraculous secret, was arriving at the worst possible moment. She wandered through the market, trying to steady her thoughts. Every sound felt amplified, the clatter of baskets, the sharp cry of vendors, the rustling of leaves. And beneath it all, her mind whispered, "I have to protect him. I have to protect us." Just as she turned to head home, a shadow stepped into her path. Min. Still wearing simple clothes, a guitar case strapped across his back, yet now a CEO commanding one of the fastest-growing construction empires in the region. "You look pale," he said softly. "Are you all right?" She forced a small smile. "Just tired." But Min wasn't fooled. "James is in trouble," he said quietly. Everyone in the business circle knows. The stock plunge, the investigation, the accusations. He paused. You don't have to face this alone. His concern was painfully sincere, dangerously sincere. Not because she wanted him, but because she knew Min was the kind of man who would walk into fire for her without hesitation. I am his wife, she said firmly. Whatever he faces, I face with him. A flicker of hurt crossed Min's eyes, but he nodded. At least let me help. No, she whispered. If James knew, it would hurt him more. Before Min could respond, a black car screeched to a stop. 2 stern men stepped out. Mrs. James, you need to come with us, one said. It concerns your husband. Her blood ran cold. Min instinctively moved closer. Who sent you? The investigation team. Deep hid the ultrasound paper up her sleeve, her hands trembling. Pregnant or not, terrified or not, she had no choice. James needed her. She stepped into the car. The ride felt endless, every turn pulling her deeper into uncertainty. The men beside her remained silent, neither hostile nor reassuring. When the car finally stopped, she saw a gray administrative building, and a crowd of reporters. Cameras flashed like lightning. Is it true James falsified financial statements? Did he plan to flee the country? Is the hydropower fund connected to criminal groups? Deep's heart clenched. James would never do this. Someone powerful was setting him up. Inside, the hallways were cold. They led her to a plain room where a calm, almost sympathetic officer sat behind a wooden desk. Mrs. James, he said, adjusting his glasses, we need to ask a few questions. Your husband was brought in last night. Her breath caught. Is he hurt? Can I see him, in time? But first, your cooperation. He slid a file toward her. Investment records, message screenshots, highlighted transactions, each line pulsed with accusation. At the top of the file, in bold red ink, John, James's rival. The man whose resentment simmered beneath every forced smile. Her fingers tightened around the paper. The officer continued gently. Did your husband mention meeting John before the collapse of the hydropower funds? She shook her head. No. Only that John was acting strangely. Any threats? Images flashed in her memory. James coming home exhausted, brushing off her questions, late-night phone calls, sudden enemies circling their company like sharks. Someone was following him, she whispered. He didn't say who. The officer closed the file. Your husband is not under arrest. Not yet, but the investigation continues. Her knees weakened. Can I see him? She whispered again. After a moment, he nodded. 5 minutes. They led her down a dim hallway to a narrow room with a glass window. Behind it, James. Disheveled, exhausted, shadowed by worry. But when he saw her, everything in his expression softened. Deep, why did they bring you here? She pressed her palm against the glass. I had to see you. You shouldn't be dragged into this. It's too dangerous. I'm your wife, she said. There is no dangerous alone. For a moment, the world fell away. Just the two of them, separated by a sheet of glass yet closer than they had ever been. She wanted to tell him about the baby, about the tiny heartbeat blooming inside her. But looking at the weight on his face, she couldn't. Not here, not now. James, she whispered, I know John is behind this. His jaw tightened. There's more, much more. Before he could continue, the guard knocked. Time was up. I'm not leaving you, she said desperately, no matter what happens. His voice softened to a whisper meant only for her. Deep. When this ends, I will protect both of you. Both. Her heart slammed. Did he know? Before she could speak, the guards pulled her away. James's eyes followed her until the very last second, filled with a desperation that tore her in two. Outside, rain fell in frantic rhythms, tapping against the windows like restless fingers. Deep wrapped her arms around herself. She was carrying his child, and he was walking straight into a storm that could destroy him. As she stepped out into the rain, an umbrella appeared above her, held by men who had followed her the entire time. Deep, he said softly, voice trembling with worry. Whatever happens next, you can't face it alone. She looked up at him, rain clinging to her lashes. Her voice was barely a breath. I'm pregnant. Min froze. Shock, fear, protectiveness, sharp and raw. And for the first time, he understood the magnitude of the storm closing in on her.